For more on the Obama-Castro UN meeting, I spoke with William LeoGrande from American University. He's the co-author of Back Channel to Cuba, The Hidden History of Negotiations Between Washington and Havana. I asked him about the increasing contact between these two presidents.
Well, not only have they met twice now face-to-face for private discussions, but they've also spoken on the phone 3 times. So in some ways, they've had more interaction in just the last 12 months than U.S. and Cuban leaders have had over the previous 50 years. So it's really quite extraordinary. And on top of that, it's the first time that Raul Castro has come to the United States to speak before the General Assembly.
Yesterday, the Chinese president, President Xi, talking about kind of a new model he's proposing where major nations treat smaller nations with mutual respect. And as he put it, this new model of the big countries and the little countries treated as equals. And it was interesting talking to you just a moment ago. They may be treated as equals, but they don't have the same kind of view when they look at a particular issue. And that was definitely apparent with Obama's comments and Castro's comments yesterday.
No doubt about it. For President Obama, he mentioned the new policy towards Cuba as an example, as a positive example of the power of diplomacy, which was a strong theme throughout his speech. Whereas when President Castro spoke, he focused on all the issues that still have to be resolved before there can be a normal relationship with the United States. So in a relationship between big countries and little ones, the big countries sometimes forget the past, the little ones always remember it.
Let me ask you about what the UN General Assembly in October, they're scheduled to discuss this resolution condemning the embargo and calling for its abolition. And we've already got the President of the United States on record saying he thinks the embargo should go away. He mentioned it again yesterday. A lot of people speculating perhaps the U.S. might abstain on this resolution, which would be incredible. And I want to get your thoughts on this because this seems like the next big story that's probably going to percolate, and it's a month away.
That's right, and I think there has been discussion within the administration about whether or not the United States ought to abstain. It will really depend on how the resolution itself is framed. Historically, the resolutions have been framed in ways very negatively and antagonistic towards the United States. If there's a resolution that simply calls upon the United States to lift the embargo, it's very possible that the administration might abstain on it because, in fact, the President's position is clear that he thinks the embargo ought to be lifted. But if the resolution goes through a whole long litany of U.S. aggressions against Cuba and Cuban complaints against the United States, then I think that the administration will feel compelled to vote against it yet again. And this year, probably like last, it'll be 188-2, with only the United States and Israel voting against.
The embargo, the president on record saying he thinks it should go away, but the likelihood of that still with the Republican majority, McConnell, you've got the Republican House, even though they're in a state of disarray, pretty much saying,
I don't think this Congress is going to repeal the embargo. The Republicans have a narrative that the president is weak on foreign policy, from Libya to Syria to Ukraine to Cuba to Iran, and so they're not going to do anything in the Congress that's going to make his Cuba policy look like a success. On top of that, all the presidential candidates on the Republican side, except for Rand Paul, have criticized the president's policy towards Cuba. So I think the embargo is not going to go anywhere, at least in this Congress.
William, always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Good to be with you.